Few years ago I decided to start doing workshops around cinematic and analog fine art photography, but I had a little problem with that. I was a self-taught artist, and I learned my skills through many impromptu sessions and had no proper photography education at all. I've never been to photo or video school, so why should I teach others? So I bought some books, went through some courses, looked at various syllabuses and thought,
what is going on here?
Don't get me wrong, I spent more than a decade in scientific projects as a researcher, so I do appreciate proper university-level education, but there is something awfully dreadful about traditional photography teachings. This time I want to talk about a topic that I think is crucial in photography education but is often omitted, so let me share a personal story with you. My friend and I specialize in cinematic fine art images, and we made a few award-winning sessions mainly using middle format analog cameras. Now, it's not because we believe in some mystical powers of analog photography, rather these old school cameras are fantastic tools for creating stunning images. However, a few years back, the rising costs of analog photography prompted us to explore digital alternatives. Yet to our disappointment, sessions with the latest digital flagship cameras fell short of our expectations. We are proficient in both analog and digital techniques, so it wasn't about post-production tricks or lack of knowledge. The key seemed to lay in how we interacted with the camera during photoshoots. We decided to conduct a little experiment. We set up a small cinematic scene using both an analog Mamiya RZ67 and a Sony full-frame flagship, framing each shot with similar parameters and comparing the previews on both cameras' screens. Almost always, when we said yes to the image seen in an analog camera, we said nay for the same preview seen on the screen of digital mirrorless. But we took all the shots nevertheless, and upon closer inspection and post-processing, both images always held their ground on big screen. The first thing that comes to mind is that the analog middle format with its huge focusing screen adds some magical properties to the image that makes frames more attractive to the eye. But that's not the case really. The truth is that the picture from the old analog camera was, in fact, more realistic and close to the end result, whereas digital previews are flawed because of many mainly technical reasons. LCD screens on modern cameras are very bad. They are far from the quality of 4K OLED screens found on our mobile phones. They are so bad that the manufacturers are still hiding real resolution behind number of RGB dots. A mid-tier EVF resolution of 3.69 million dots equates to a mere 1280 by 960, far below Full HD resolution. On camera screens usually offer even lower resolutions, typically below 720p, and use only a fraction of the screen to display the actual image. Unfortunately, resolution is only the tip of the iceberg. These screens also suffer from poor contrast, inaccurate colors, and a flawed rendering profile that displays a highly processed raw preview. These issues may seem as minor deficiencies, but in reality they are huge, because we cannot see the image properly, and that can mislead our perception. For example, highly contrasty image intuitively seems better for our eyes than a low contrast one. Current EVFs and digital camera screens are poor. This does not happen in film industry where viewfinders can cost tens of thousands of dollars. They've got great optics, variable magnification ratio and sharp LED panel that shows beautiful image. Of course, the trend towards lower quality screens in cameras is driven by market demand for quantity over quality in photography, whereas film still needs quality for many mid and high budget productions. This does not mean modern cameras are bad, but they may not be the best tools for learning anymore. We are still talking only about picture quality of the screen, but that's not all. Missing key is its physical placement relative to our eye. And to better explain it, we must talk about PlayStation 5. Some of you may be aware that you can purchase PlayStation VR goggles to have a more immersive gaming experience. Tech enthusiasts know that a game console that hardly generates 30 frames per second in 4K resolution couldn't possibly generate double the images for both eyes at over 120 frames per second, which is required for an immersive VR experience. But nevertheless, The goggles are there, and they work great. There is a trick to that. The goggles have built-in sensors that track our eye movements. The graphics engine renders the image in full resolution only where our gaze is currently aimed, while the rest of the frame is rendered in very low resolution or practically blurred. Despite this, the viewer is fully convinced that the entire picture is razor sharp. He's sure that he sees everything in detail without any blurring. It's because our vision system has no uniform resolution. We have a high density of photoreceptors only in the center of our visual field, while the rest is used for peripheral vision, which is tuned for movement and threat detection. Our brain tricks us into believing we see everything sharply, because when we want to look at something, we direct our gaze toward it and then we see it in full resolution. In fact, we can shift our awareness from detail-oriented to peripheral, and we do it all the time. If you focus on some small detail, like you would do using a bow, you are mainly processing only a small fraction of your vision. But while walking on the street, you usually do not focus on every small object, but try to observe your surroundings. You can even try it now. Focus on your hand, then, without changing your gaze, try to observe as much of your surroundings as possible. You will quickly forget about the hand. We all experience this when looking at photos. We may view the image as a whole or focus on specific details such as people's faces. Skilled photographers understand this and often switch between these two modes intuitively. It's crucial to realize that focusing on details can prevent you from seeing the overall framing and vice versa. Let's visualize this phenomenon. Here we have a simulation of our visual field with high resolution at the center, while the rest is blurred. Imagine looking at the image on a wall. To best assess the framing, you would step back from the wall, so the entire image fits within the high-resolution area. However, the details become smaller and harder to see. To examine these details, we would move closer to the image. Now we can see the details in high resolution, but we would need to scan the image with our eyes to view it properly. Now consider a camera screen. We are essentially looking at the image that is quite far, and we can't get closer. Even if we could, we would then notice the screen's low quality, sometimes even its pixels. On the other hand, many electronic viewfinders are designed in such a way that you can't see the entire image without scanning with your eyes. These are monitoring tools built for different purposes. The challenge arises when you need both characteristics. In modern cameras, it's impractical to switch from the LCD screen to the EVF for every shot. Now let's look at Mamiya RZ67. A few decades ago, this camera was a staple in the industry, known for producing beautiful images. Its sharp focusing screen allows for precise manual focus, but its placement encourages a framing-first approach. For closer inspection, you can use the loupe to observe finer details. The camera is designed to let you adjust the magnification based on the distance from your eyes to the optics, allowing you to either view the entire image or focus on specific details. The camera's funnel also creates a border around the image, similar to a passepartout in prints.
Passepartout.
Basically, it is a tool for doing images that looks the same in the camera as they would look in the art gallery. Great tool made for making art, something that our modern economy-driven photo market left behind. Of course, we all know that most of us are not working commercially making images for an art gallery. But if you aim at developing your skills further, now you can see the obstacles that modern cameras can put under your feet. If you only aim for the best shots while dealing with imperfect monitoring, you are limited by your tools, not your skills. I've known many photographers struggling to advance their framing skills for that very reason. Having bad visual feedback from your camera, you may come to the conclusion that much of the session's result is always due to luck, and you will take hundreds of images because of that to maximize the odds to catch the good picture. I'm not suggesting you replace your $3,000 camera with a 50-year-old analog body. While using vintage gear can be fun, modern equipment compensates for its flaws in many ways. However, Monitoring your photos as you are taking them is crucial for your own development. You can produce stunning images with any camera and even learn to compensate for poor monitoring. But for quick learning, occasionally disregard the viewfinder and on-body screen and just use an additional monitoring, like an iPad with tethering software. Obviously, you don't need to check every photo this way, but it's a liberating experience to use it when you are unsure about the quality of the last shot you took. If you are not satisfied, just make it a minor adjustment and try again. Make it an iterative process, not a bulk one where you take thousands of random quality images. If your commercial setting don't allow this, which is often the case, maybe try to have training sessions for yourself using this approach. I know that it is not easy to implement the things I talked about here, but I hope that it will open new opportunities for you to hone your skills further. The next video in the series will likely discuss the dopamine rush experienced while taking photos, which can negatively affect learning for inexperienced photographers. So, till the next time!